Hey everyone, welcome to another Angry Artist podcast. Of course, just like the previous editions, I will be answering a question that has been asked by one of my fans. A Deviantart user by the name of DamnDadDo44, apologies if I messed up that name, asks, what are the best ways to work faster and more efficiently without Photoshop tricks? And what elements are most important to give a character you draw a sense of personality and make your picture tell a story? So, the second question I kind of answered in my Angry Artist podcast number 3, so feel free to check that out. It's just a matter of really interpreting the world and making sure you fully understand what you're trying to draw in context as a whole. Won't go too much into that this time around. Now, the first question is actually a very big deal. It's the idea of speed. Speed is a very harmful trend I find, and I've openly stated my opinions on it in my Twitter. So, the idea that you have to work faster and more efficiently comes from the whole digital era and the whole idea of speed painting. Now, speed painting is pretty cool if you're trying to do something quickly, just to give your client something to pitch. Now, the problem with speed painting is it tends to be done by people who already know the fundamentals, and they can do stuff fast without losing too much of the quality of their work. Now, of course, if you gave them a lot of time, then they can be able to refine the pieces and they'll make something even better. But their minimum threshold, per se, is pretty darn high because they are very good artists. So, the best ways to work faster and more efficiently, my answer would be just to get really good. And it kind of sounds a little bit weird, right? But I firmly believe that the idea where you can start doing speed painting, you can start doing stuff fast, is going to naturally work out in the long run if you just improve your art without speed being taken into account. If you just get good and you do it well enough and you do it enough times, eventually you'll be able to do it faster and faster because it's kind of streamlined into your mind. Just like with anything else you do, the more you do it, the easier it is for you to think of answers to your questions. And when you make decisions faster, then naturally you'll just be faster. Anyways, it seems like that question didn't take too long to answer, so I'm gonna answer another one. Master Devon 445 asks, do you think you'll ever hit a point where you won't be able to top yourself? Like you create your Magnum Opus and you feel like you won't be able to make anything like it again. Now, short answer is most likely not. My answer is, again, most likely not. And it's because when I look into artists much older than me, and the ones who died of old age, it seems like they've kept going and they've kept having that drive to improve. A lot of great artists improve even into their 70s and 80s. And I feel like I'm at that point where I don't really have any reason to believe I could create my magnum opus. It's really about improvement, and I feel like art is infinite. There's so many ways to approach it, and you're always constantly improving. I've had cases where I felt like, oh man, I can't think of a way to make this better, only to come back the next week or two and realize there's so many things that I could do better. So, judging by how older artists than me, I'm 27 by the way, so just as a frame of reference, people much older than me are still improving. So for me right now, I don't really think I'm going to hit that peak because I feel like as long as you keep an open mind, you're always going to find things that are going to improve your work. Now, one thing I do want to mention is improvement is getting much harder to see and it's getting more subtle. The reason why is, of course, as you get better, there's less that you feel like you can learn that are sweeping improvements. So for example, when you start, you're probably looking into volume, you're looking into structure, you're thinking anatomy and all that. But once you really learn all of that, it's only a mastery of those aspects that will improve you. You will no longer hit the point where you will make major mistakes that people will see very clearly because you got your basic fundamentals down. So, while I'll say that I am constantly improving, the changes are more subtle and more subtle as time goes on. While there will always be things to learn when it comes to technique really starts stagnating a little bit, and you'll start being able to create improvements, but it will be maybe 1% a day sort of thing. Of course, it's hard to quantify, so it's really something that's personal and it'll rack up over time rather than just a striking, oh my god, this is how a pelvis works sort of improvement. When it comes to improvement, ideas are especially infinite. Ideas will never get worse. You're always going to try to top yourself when it comes to that. It's a very intangible factor. It's not something that's technique or visual driven. It's the entire whole. And those ideas come from experience from life. And I would say that's an improvement that will keep you trying to top yourself every single piece you make. You might notice that a lot of master artists, they start to change their styles a bit when they get older. Picasso is a very good example. Even though you might say, oh, his earlier work is a bit more technique driven, later on his style is more memorable when he started to go into cubism and all of that. And that comes from just trying to figure a way to progress. Artists are really about progression. They're always trying to find reason to improve and to not stagnate. It's also the reason why I don't believe in art block. And it might be very controversial, but I generally believe art blocks only exist because people haven't found the answers. I know there's a bit of an argument here and there. People saying, "Oh, art block is just another term for laziness." I don't really believe that either, but I feel like, in a way, art block is just there because you've hit the point where you feel you couldn't go up. But once you find the answer, it may take a few weeks, it may take a few months. Either way, when you find a way to improve, you'll always find a way to improve. You'll always find that something that you want to top yourself with. So right now, it's usually an idea thing for me. Of course, technique is always going to be in question. I'm always trying to refine what I like about my work and what I don't. But when it comes to ideas, I'm always thinking, how can I possibly make something better or express my voice better for the world to see? And that's something that I feel like there will be no end to. Well, that will be 2 questions answered. I think that's all of them on my social media. So hopefully you enjoyed the Q&A for the past 5 podcasts. I'll be starting to talk about my own topics, as well as maybe trying to get some guests in. I'm not a social person by any means, so it might be pretty difficult, but maybe I can bring in longtime subscribers or people who are in my circle of artists friends. Of course, I'm open to talking about anything when it comes to this podcast. If it means going past just talking about art, I will do so. But that goes into the future bin. I will also be talking about what makes good design and maybe reference some video games I've been playing to really strike home the point. People who know me will know that I'm very harsh with it. So if I like a design, I hope people understand there's a really good reason for it, and I'm just not gonna say everything is great. I'm a little bit of an asshole when it comes to that. Anyways, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.